we're trying to do right now, at least in my opinion, since we haven't really implemented it yet, is how do we get ready for it at the transport layer? And that's where, that's kind of where this is all coming together at the transport layer, saying, what are the hooks we need to put in place if we're going to do this new dynamic optical layer with the CDC ROADM, if we're going to put in OTN switches across the globe as opposed to old SONET and SDH. It's another layer. It's got really good transparency. It was made for that kind of traffic. How am I going to put the hooks in place, or what hooks do I really need to put in place so I can take advantage of it if and when it shows up? And I should say more than when.
And that's why I'm saying my big worry is that if we may miss some of those hooks. Now's the time to put the hooks in so that things maybe we can't think of or conceive of today are still possible later. You want to be 10 years down the road saying, well, if we had just put in channel width as one of the parameters in the flow table, I could use that gridless ROADM to put the different QAM rates and different widths and got rid of all the guard bands and really got the efficiency out of my fiber. Oh, but I can't do that because all I had was data rate. It didn't tell me the channel width too. So now's the time to put the right hooks in the flow table so that future applications, whether it be at a local node or a master controller level, can really properly make the assignments and enable these future applications.
But that's back to the vendor proprietary nature of some of those parameters and some of those aspects. Now maybe the channel width, if you're just talking about...
If you make them generic enough, you say just data rate, channel width, or maybe color number, that
just to know what might connect. But I mean, the GMPLS and the IETF spent a lot of time, and probably still is making efforts to try to add different optical parameters to delve down below into the vendor space in terms of trying to do signaling that really only a particular vendor will understand with regards to interconnecting their equipment.
Or wants to advertise.
Or wants to advertise, and so that's another aspect of it. If it was a commodity, that would be one thing, but you're talking about lots of, quote, secret sauce and how vendors differentiate themselves.
Yeah, right, but I mean, GMPLS is the way forward for that, because you basically say, okay, well, don't tell us the whole secret sauce, but at least tell us I can go this far, this is my width, and this is my data rate, and I can get from point A to the basics without delving down into the fine details.
Well, part of the problem is it's not linear. You've got nonlinear aspects to fibers. It's not just a distance at a particular bit rate. It's a lot more complex than that. It depends on the fiber type. It depends on what I went through. It depends on how far the reaches were between amps, and it's not so simple. And that's why vendors do it themselves. And so to abstract that into a connectivity table, I think is very viable. To do it something more of a, if you're point A, here's what you can connect to.
Yeah.
And that could be calculated offline and populated ahead of time and could be very quick to reference.
It will be, right? I mean, that's kind of the way we do it, I would argue today in the network. When we don't have the engineering folks go off and say, every time the capacity planning guys say, gee, is that path going to work or not? No, they already know.
They already know.
We've already told them how, after we're done building the line system, well, here's what the connectivity map can do. Here's how far you can go on that particular route and everything else. So they've got a lookup table as opposed to, now it took a long time to create the lookup table, but you do it in the background, right? You do that, that ran over a period of weeks, fine, because it doesn't change.
You did it by choice. If you hadn't asked for it, it probably wouldn't have gotten done.
True.
You do it for the connectivity. You had day one. You want these links. That's what they'd calculate, unless you said, give me all of it.
And you build it. I mean, that's one of the other things that we've talked about too is this whole idea of optimization. And we've talked about it before, this network defrag, or one of the things that we like, because you don't build the network all as one static entity, right? You build it a link at a time, a node at a time, and you start off over a period of 2-3 years, you've built a pretty complex network. And you've loaded traffic on it continuously as you go. And you put in a brand new link and you go, I really want all the traffic to go between A and Z to use that direct path now. I used to using up other resources. How am I going to get them over there? Today that's very manual. And when it's manual, it usually doesn't get done. And when it does get done, it doesn't always get done right. So that's what we're trying to, again, say that maybe as an application, you'd asked about the applications. If that was one of the applications, network defrag, so I'm going to go off and I'm not going to determine what whether I can reach ANZ optically, I just looked at the table and said, hey, I've got a brand new link down there that's running at 100 gig or 400 gig. And it's between A and Z, and I've got capacity between A and Z that's actually going to B, C, D, and E. I'm going to move that, and I'm going to do that in a controlled fashion. Then again, that's a network application, doesn't require any customers, and we just save network resources by doing it. I mean, that's where we've been trying to look at those. How do we quantify that? We're still working on it.
Yeah.
But is that worth an investment to us? And the answer to that is yes. Is it worth billions of dollars investment? Probably not. But if we're reusing what we're already building, and we've got this API that some small company went off and wrote, and says, I can do that network defrag for you. All I need is a lookup table, and all I need is access to your northbound to your management system, and I'm going to reuse whatever you've got down there. Don't worry about it. Then that's the kind of thing we can take advantage of. If it's go replace everything you got, well then, I don't suppose it's going to happen very soon.